Hey, today we're going to be factoring what's called difference of squares. So what's going to happen is you're going to see difference, so subtraction of two numbers that can be squared. Um, so with these you want to look for, I'm going to write this down, look for subtraction, perfect squares, so numbers you can easily take the square root of, and even exponents. And as always, we want to make sure we look for a greatest common factor before we do anything. That should always be your first step. So number one, look for a greatest common factor. There's no number that goes into both, and they have different variables. So the reason why this is difference of squares is that I can take the square root of 16 easily, I can take the square root of 9 easily, and I see subtraction. So all you're going to do is take the square root of both numbers. So square root of 16 is 4. And then there's x squared, so put in x. So with the exponents, you're just going to divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I only have 1x there. And then minus square root of 9 is 3. And then y squared divided by 2 is just y. And then you're going to write the exact same thing, just with different signs. We learned in an earlier section that they have different signs, then your middle term cancels out. So that's why there's no middle term, because there's different signs. So just take the square root of each term and write it with different signs, and you're done. This will get a little bit more complicated. This tends to be one of the hardest things for some students, so we'll be practicing it a little bit. Number 2, I can't factor anything out. Square root of 121 is 11. See minus. Square root of 4 is 2. And then divide your exponent by 2. And then just write the same thing with different signs. And you're done. Number 3, we can factor this first. It has a common 3g. When you factor that, you get 9g squared minus 1. Now this might not look obvious to you that it's a difference of squares, but it is, because you can take the square root of 1. So we're going to keep the 3g there. Square root of 9 is 3. Divide your g squared by 2. Minus square root of 1 is 1. And then just write it again with different signs. Okay, number 4, I can factor out an x. So I'm left with 9x squared minus 4. And then I'm going to bring down the x, take the square root of 9, which is 3, divide your x by 2, minus square root of 4 is 2, and then rewrite it with a plus sign. Okay. Number 5, can't factor anything out. This one's going to be the start of our more complicated ones. So if you need to pause the video, please do, or if you need to rewind it, please do. So we're going to divide your exponent by 2. Put your minus, square root of 16 is 4. And then rewrite it with different signs. Now the reason why this is complicated is because you should always check to make sure you can't factor it again. This set of parentheses has a difference of squares again, because I see an even exponent, I see subtraction, I see I can take the square root of 4. So b squared divided by 2 is b, minus square root of 4 is 2, rewrite it with the plus sign, and then I'm just going to bring down the b squared plus 4. You can't factor b squared plus 4 because there's no subtraction, so you can only do it for subtraction problems. That's why it's called difference of squares. Okay, number 6, the square root of 625 is 25, minus divide your exponent by 2. Write the same thing but with a plus sign. Now, I don't like how this is written. This one's going to be a little complicated. I think I have a couple examples like this. I like to have the variable first, so I'm going to start there. I'm going to switch my variables around, so that's negative x squared plus 25 and a positive x squared plus 25. So it looks like I can't factor anything, but I don't like seeing a negative in front of my variable, so I'm just going to change the signs of that first set of parentheses. We don't need to change the second part. Okay, so now, oh, I forgot the 2. Now we can see this is a difference of squares right here. So divide your x squared by 2, minus square root of 25 is 5. Rewrite it with a plus sign, and then bring down your x squared plus 25. So that one was a bit complicated. Always make sure your variable is written first. There's no negative in front of there. If there is a negative, just change your signs. It means the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next page. We have 4 more examples. Okay, number 7. These last 4 are going to be kind of complicated. Alright, so divide your variable by 2. Minus square root of 1 is 1. We write it with a plus sign. Remember, always check to make sure you can't factor it again. I have difference of squares in this first set of parentheses again. So divide the y squared by 2 to get y. Bring down your minus, square root of 1 is 1. Rewrite it with the plus sign. And then bring down your y squared plus 1. Remember, you can't factor the y squared plus 1 because it's not subtraction. Okay. Number 8, square root of 81 is 9. Bring down the minus. Divide your x squared by 2. Rewrite it with a plus sign. So this one is similar to number 6. I'm going to switch everything around so that the variable is written first. And then again, I don't like to see that negative there, so I'm going to change the signs. And when I change the signs, then I notice I can factor the x squared minus 9 to x minus 3 and x plus 3. Then just bring down the x squared plus 9 because we can't do anything with that. Okay, number 9, we can factor out of 5x. We're left with x to the 4th minus 9. So I see difference of squares, so divide your exponent by 2. Square root of 9 is 3. Rewrite it. And that's your final answer. That one wasn't too bad. Okay, number 10 is kind of complicated. I see 4 terms, so I'm going to group it together because that's what I always do with 4 terms. You can factor out a 7x squared from the first set of parentheses to get x plus 3. You can factor out a negative 7 from the second set to get x plus 3. So we get 7x squared minus 7 and x plus 3. But notice I can factor out a 7 from this first set of parentheses, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. You also could have done it at the very beginning if you noticed. You could factor a 7 out of all of those. So I see difference of squares right here in this first set of parentheses. So that's x minus 1 and x plus 1. Then bring down the x plus 3. So that's your final answer. So I know it's kind of complicated, and I did go through it kind of fast, so we will be practicing this more. So please let me know if you have any questions.